Hello everyone and happy Monday. Today is December 1st and only 30 days left in what's no doubt been a wild and crazy year of news. This is First Post America and I'm Eric Ham coming to you live from our studios here in Washington, D.C. And today we get you caught up on the latest crisis spreading across Latin America as well as Europe, along with other top stories around the world. But we start with the latest global headlines. Russian President Vladimir Putin will meet U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff in Moscow tomorrow. The two will discuss the highly controversial peace proposal for Ukraine. A conservative candidate nicknamed Granddad and backed by President Donald Trump narrowly leads Honduras presidential election. The race has been dominated by Donald Trump's threat to cut aid if his preferred contender actually loses the race. The cryptocurrency market experiences a sharp, volatile sell-off as rising concern drives the total market capitalization down an estimated $140 billion in just a matter of hours. Malaysia's legislature surprisingly tables a new bill to curb school bullying just when harassment reaches alarming levels nationwide, prompting more calls for stronger protections and safer learning environments for students. And the death toll from flooding and landslides across parts of Asia climbs past 1,000 as hardest hit Sri Lanka and Indonesia deploy military personnel to assist survivors. Today we begin with fast-moving developments in South America, where President Donald Trump confirmed on Sunday that he recently spoke with Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro. Now, the revelation comes as soaring tensions continue between both Washington and Caracas, and the announcement, though brief, the president did not provide any details.
The New York Times reported that you had a phone call with Maduro. Did you?
I don't want to comment on it. The answer is yes.
And can you tell us a little bit
No,
about it?
I can't do that.
Mr. President, would you say it went well?
I wouldn't say it went well or badly. It was a phone call.
However, some reports state that President Trump and Maduro discussed the possibility of an in-person meeting. But there was silence from the Venezuelan side. Neither President Maduro nor his top officials have actually commented on the call. And that silence only fueled speculation, especially as President Maduro vanished from public view for several days, triggering rumors that he actually fled the country. Meanwhile, a U.S. senator recently revealed that Washington has offered Maduro the chance to leave for Russia or anywhere he chooses, highlighting how seriously the White House is considering a post-Maduro landscape. But then on Sunday, the Venezuelan president resurfaced, offering brief remarks as he avoided directly mentioning the crisis that's engulfing his country as well as his government. Meanwhile, pressure from Washington has been intensifying as President Trump has warned that land-based strikes against drug trafficking networks connected to Venezuela could begin very soon, even advising airlines, pilots, and criminal groups to steer clear of Venezuelan airspace.
We've almost stopped. It's about 85% stopped by sea. You probably noticed that. People aren't wanting to be delivering by sea. And we'll be starting to stop them by land also. The land is easier, but that's going to start very soon. We warned them, stop sending poison to our country.
And on Saturday, President Trump declared that the entire airspace around the country should be considered closed. The country's foreign ministry immediately, however, slammed Trump's warning, calling it a colonialist threat. But the president's message sent shockwaves through Caracas.
I think it's unfair because there are people who need to travel for work, business, to see our family, and we Venezuelans are not to blame for these situations. We are the ones who pay the consequences for the things that are happening.
Now, speaking aboard Air Force One just a day later, he told reporters that the warning was not a sign that an airstrike was in fact imminent.
Warning mean that an airstrike is imminent, or should we not read it that way?
Don't read anything into it.
Nevertheless, Washington still continues to accuse Maduro of playing a direct role in supplying illegal drugs that have killed Americans a charge that Maduro vehemently denies. And the U.S. military is continuing its buildup throughout the Caribbean, following months of strikes on suspected drug boats near Venezuelan waters. Now, human rights groups have condemned them as illegal extrajudicial killings. U.S. lawmakers are also pressing the Trump administration for answers about military strikes on suspected Venezuelan drug boats, following reports that a follow-up strike was ordered to kill survivors of an initial attack. Now, soon after, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth condemned the reports as fake news, and Caracas said that the country will form a special commission to investigate these boat strikes.
We, at the same time as we form the special commission tomorrow at the extraordinary session of the National Assembly, will also activate, through the mechanisms available to the National Assembly according to its constitutional prerogatives, we will activate the action of the Attorney General's office so that the Attorney General's office also addresses the crimes committed against Venezuelans and Latin Americans in the Caribbean Sea.
President Trump said that he'd look into allegations that a second strike in September killed survivors from a previous operation, saying that he would not have supported such an act. Meanwhile, Maduro has repeatedly said that Venezuela needs to defend itself against foreign threats.
I ask you to remain steadfast in your serenity. Be alert, ready, and willing to defend our rights as a nation, as a free and sovereign homeland. And I know that you will never fail Venezuela. I know that Venezuela is counting on you. If history demands that we declare ourselves a republic in arms, history will once again see us rise up.
Now, inside Venezuela, the pressure is being felt in a very different way. Rights monitors say the country is entering one of its most repressive periods in years. And the crisis is widening, the rhetoric is hardening, and both countries are now standing at a moment where diplomacy, pressure, and military posture are intertwining in very unpredictable ways. And now, from tensions in South America to the crisis in Europe, Germany is racing to prepare for a scenario it once considered unthinkable: a direct military confrontation between NATO and Russia. A classified 1,200-page strategy known as O-Plan DEU lays out how up to 800,000 NATO troops could be moved across Germany territory towards the Eastern Front if Russia launched an attack on the alliance. Now, the plan revealed by the Wall Street Journal marks the most serious shift in German defense thinking since the end of the Cold War. The report was drafted shortly after Russia's full-scale invasion in Ukraine back in 2022. A small team of senior German officers spent months designing a system that blends military, civilian, and private sector resources. In fact, the document is so sensitive that is stored only on Germany's isolated red network far away from the internet. The blueprint maps out the movement of troops from western ports and airfields across Germany using roads, rivers, railways, and key bridges. It details how convoys would be protected from sabotage, drones, cyber attacks, and misinformation. And the plan also highlights a major weakness. Decades of underinvestment have left 20% of highways and more than a quarter of bridges in urgent need of repair. And to fix this, Berlin is preparing to spend 168 billion euros, or about 181 billion US dollars, on infrastructure by 2029, including more than $109 billion on railways and dual-use facilities. Ports in the North and Baltic Sea alone need $16.4 billion in upgrades.
The goal is to prevent war by making it clear to our enemies that if they attack us, they won't be successful.
Now, the urgency comes as European intelligence agencies warn that Russia could be ready to test NATO's borders far earlier than expected. In fact, some German officials point to espionage cases, sabotage attempts, and drone incursions as signs Moscow is preparing for confrontation. A possible ceasefire in Ukraine, they warn, could free up Russian troops and equipment for a much wider campaign across the continent. Countries are also preparing for worst-case scenarios. France plans to revive its military national service. Poland is expanding military training for adults. Several Baltic nations have pulled out of the Ottawa Convention banning anti-personnel landmines. The EU is also developing a new anti-drone shield to counter Russian threats. Germany's chancellor underscored the urgency last week, saying it's increasingly urgent for Europe to use frozen Russian assets to support Ukraine. He warned, quote, "The threats are real. We are not at war, but we no longer live in peacetime." End quote.
Die Androhung von Russland.
We are trying to reach a joint solution within the European Union. Before the last council meeting, I proposed using such a loan against Russia's assets to finance Ukraine for the next 3 years. I see an increasingly urgent need to do this. Ukraine needs our support. Russian attacks are increasing. Winter is approaching, or rather, we are already in winter, and I therefore hope that we can reach a joint solution within the European Union.
Damit dies wirklich auch im großen Konsens in der Europäischen Union beschlossen werden kann.
Europe is now rebuilding structures it once dismantled because the question no longer seems to be if the continent will be tested, but a matter of when. President Donald Trump has once again thrown American politics into a frenzy. An AI-generated image of the president declaring Trump 2028 has sparked fresh talks over presidential term limits and the unmistakable theater of Trumpism. The Constitution might bar him from a third term. However, that has not stopped the president from teasing a future that stretches far beyond legal boundaries. Add AI-generated videos, royal imagery, and a Republican landscape quietly rearranging itself, and the result is pure political combustion. Our next report tells you more.
America woke up to another Trump-style plot twist, the kind that arrives without warning and instantly hijacks the national conversation. Donald Trump has posted a new AI-generated image of himself on Truth Social, holding a giant placard that reads, quote-unquote, "Trump, 2028, yes." The caption beneath it? A brand new political invention, Trumplicans. The moment the post went live, the internet did what the internet does best. It exploded. Was he joking? Testing boundaries? Or sending up a trial balloon wrapped in a meme? No one really knows, but everyone definitely noticed. And truth be told, this wasn't even the first hint. The Trump 2028 theme has been creeping into public view all year, printed on rally signs, slapped onto merch, and even placed on Trump's Oval Office desk during meetings with Democratic leaders. A subtle wink, a not-so-subtle provocation. But here's the hard stop, the one line not even Trump's theatrics can bend. The 22nd Amendment. It's the ultimate constitutional firewall. It blocks any president from being elected more than twice, no matter the circumstances, no matter the popularity, no matter how many viral graphics appear online. Trump won in 2016 and 2024. 2 victories, 2 complete terms. And that's the maximum the Constitution allows. There's no loophole, no workaround. No but what ifs hidden in the fine print. In 2028, Trump will have reached the ceiling the founders nailed into place, a ceiling no president has ever broken. But the story doesn't end at the limit. Because if Trump can't run again, the political winds inside the Republican Party are already shifting. A new poll shows Donald Trump Jr. suddenly gaining tremendous traction, slicing J.D. Vance's lead for the upcoming presidential run. The once dismissed idea of a Trump political dynasty now feels less like speculation and more like a subplot taking shape. Trump has added fuel to the suspense by openly praising potential successors like Vance and Rubio, while simultaneously letting talk of his son's rise flourish all on its own. It's the kind of political choreography that keeps both supporters and opponents guessing. If Trump can't be the next president, then who will? And as if the storyline needed more flair, Trump has repeatedly leaned into spectacle. In October, he reposted a Truth Social video, portraying himself as a leader whose rule spans centuries, eventually landing, dramatically and absurdly, in the year 90,000. Supporters shared it like it was the trailer for the next blockbuster. The same month, he shared another AI-generated clip. It showed Trump in a fighter jet labeled King Trump, wearing a crown, and dropping a suspicious brown substance on No Kings protesters. Politically provocative, visually chaotic, and unmistakably Trump. Through it all, one thing is clear.
Are you serious?
Even if the Constitution forbids a third Trump term, the idea of it is being kept alive with deliberate flair. And as the memes multiply and the suspense builds, one truth keeps floating above the chaos. Trump may not be able to run again, but he is making sure the conversations never run without him. The Constitution can limit a presidency, but it can't limit spectacle. And in Trump's America, spectacle is always the opening act, never the finale.
Air travel around the world faced sudden disruption over the weekend after Airbus ordered an emergency recall of nearly 6,000 aircraft from its A320 family, the company's largest safety action in decades. The move came after engineers discovered that intense bursts of solar radiation could disrupt data on certain aircraft, posing a risk during flight. The recall affects the A318, the A319, A320, and A321 models used by hundreds of airlines worldwide. But what triggered the recall? The safety alert followed an October incident involving a JetBlue A320 flying from Cancun to Newark. At 35,000 feet, the aircraft experienced an unexpected pitch down after its flight control system received corrupted altitude data. The plane recovered and later made an emergency landing in Tampa, but 15 passengers were hurt in the process.
Because as we know, it's now a software-related issue. It could have been the hardware as well. So they've had to put time into significant testing. Once they found out what the problem was, the fact that they proactively went out and put out the alert to the entire aviation system, which is airlines around the world, was the responsible thing to do.
Airbus confirmed that a significant number of its aircraft could be affected, especially during the current phase of heightened solar activity. Aviation authorities said the grounding was precautionary but necessary to maintain global safety standards. In fact, in their latest statement, the plane maker said that as of Monday, fewer than 100 Airbus A320 jets remain grounded for the software update. Meanwhile, the airlines has been instructed to roll back software or replace the hardware entirely. Now, most aircraft can be updated within 3 hours, but around 900 older jets need full computer replacements, meaning they cannot carry passengers until repairs are complete. Regulators in the U.S., Europe, and the UK and other regions issued emergency directives allowing only ferry flights without passengers until aircraft are in fact updated. Now, the recall hit carriers across the U.S., Europe, and Asia during one of the busiest travel periods of the year. American Airlines described its response as an all-hands-on-deck and began updating hundreds of aircraft. Delta reported minimal disruption, while Lufthansa, British Airways, Wizz Air, and EasyJet said most fixes were done overnight. Japan's ANA canceled 95 flights, affecting 13,500 travelers. Airports in the UK saw minor delays, though most operations continued rather smoothly.
The challenge is that this is one of the busiest travel weekends in the entire year, especially in the US, because we know of the fact that it's Thanksgiving weekend. There are an estimated 45 to 50,000 flights across the US this weekend alone on Sunday and on Saturday. So it's a very difficult one in terms of the impact, not only on the aircraft, the number of aircraft out there, but on traveler confidence and the ability for them to be able to travel without frustration and depending on their airline.
Now, India, which is home to one of the world's largest A320 fleets, reacted quickly after the Directorate General of Civil Aviation temporarily restricted the use of the entire A320 family. Indigo, the country's biggest airline, announced that all 200 of its A320 aircraft have now been fully updated. The airline said that the upgrade was completed without disrupting schedules, Air India said that more than 90% of the A320 aircraft have received the required reset, and the remaining updates will be completed within the mandated timeline. Global regulators emphasized that flying remains extremely safe and credited the swift industry-wide cooperation. Airbus has also apologized for delays, but said that action underscores its commitment to safety in an era when solar radiation poses growing challenges to advanced aircraft electronics. The fixes may steady the skies for now, but experts warn this solar shock is only just the beginning. Elon Musk has empire stretching from Silicon Valley to low Earth orbit, and a resume that includes everything from electric cars to neural implants. But amid all the rocket launches and tech unveilings, he's now revealed something far more down to earth and much closer to India than anyone imagined. In a surprisingly candid podcast moment, Musk shared a family connection that caught even longtime followers off guard. Here's our final story with more.
Elon Musk may have electric cars on the roads, rockets in orbit, and brain chips in monkeys. But who knew he also had a surprising connection to India tucked away in his family tree? In a podcast with an Indian entrepreneur, Musk offered an unusually personal revelation. While discussing family, identity, and parenthood, the Tesla chief casually dropped the nugget. He said that his partner, Siobhan Zillis, is half Indian. Musk then went a step further. One of his twin sons with Zillis carries the middle name Shekhar. It was inspired by Nobel Prize-winning astrophysicist Subramanian Chandrasekhar. The Indian-American scientist, celebrated for his groundbreaking work on the evolution of stars, won the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1983. For a man known for sending rockets to Mars, naming a child after a cosmic legend feels almost on brand. When the podcaster asked Musk whether Zillis had ever lived in India, he clarified that she grew up in Canada and was adopted as a baby. Musk added that her biological father was reportedly an exchange student at a university, though he admitted he didn't know the complete details. What he did make clear was the Indian connection. As per reports, Zillis was born to a Punjabi mother and a Canadian father, giving Musk's children a lineage that spans 3 continents. Zillis is a tech executive and one of the top leaders at Neuralink, the neurotechnology company co-founded by Musk. A former OpenAI project manager and Yale graduate, she has been part of Musk's orbit for years. She is often described as an influential figure within Musk's tight circle. A recent report even stated that Zillis enjoys a special status and called her the most prominent of Musk's mothers, a reference to Musk's sprawling, headline-making family structure. Back to the podcast, where the conversation soon veered into parenthood, one of Musk's favorite themes. When the podcaster mentioned he didn't have children, Musk responded with characteristic earnestness. He said, and I quote, "Well, maybe you should. You will not regret it." End quote. Pressed on what he finds most rewarding about being a parent, Musk offered a rare, soft-edged answer. He said that parents get a little creature that loves them, and they, in turn, love the baby. A parent sees the world through their child's eyes as their awareness grows, from a baby that can't talk or walk to someone who begins to have interesting thoughts. Then came Musk's classic philosophy. He said, and I quote, "I think we fundamentally have to have kids or go extinct." End quote. For a man whose world is defined by disruptive ideas, multinational companies, and interplanetary ambitions, Musk's revelation adds yet another layer to his ever-expanding narrative. This time, one that leads straight to India. And in true Musk style, the reveal came not through a press release or a biography, but casually, on a podcast, between discussions about innovation, consciousness, and saving humanity from extinction.
That's our show for today. We certainly thank all of you for tuning in. We hope you have a great day, and we look forward to seeing you right back here again tomorrow. Thanks everyone for watching.